Every story begins with a whisper, but some begin with a silence so heavy that it feels alive. Tonight, I'm taking you into a place that doesn't appear on any map, a place erased from memory long before you or I ever existed. If you're watching this alone, you might want to leave a small light on, just a dim one, because stories like this have a strange way of making the shadows in your room feel closer than they really are. In the darkness, listens. Our story follows a young photographer named Hassan, someone who always believed that every abandoned place had a soul. Some whispered through broken walls, others through forgotten roads. Hassan loved chasing those whispers. But he didn't know that this time, something would be chasing him back. This isn't just another lost location. It isn't just another forgotten village. This is a place that should not exist, yet somehow, it waits. And tonight, it waits for him. It began on an unusually quiet night, the kind of night where even the ticking of a clock feels too loud. Hassan was sitting at his desk, editing old photographs, when his phone lit up with a sudden vibration that broke the stillness. He didn't recognize the number, no name, no picture, nothing that suggested a real person. Just empty digits glowing in the dark. He hesitated for a moment, expecting it to be another spam message. But when he opened it, a strange chill rolled down his spine. There was only one single line, written with a precision that felt intentional, almost calculated. If you want a real story, go to Daria Village. No greeting. No explanation. No coordinates or directions. Just that name, standing alone like a warning disguised as an invitation. The room felt warmer seconds before, but now a thin coldness crept across Hassan's arms, raising goosebumps without a touch. The message shouldn't have meant anything. He didn't know this village, had never heard the name, and had no logical reason to react. Yet something inside him stirred, a curiosity mixed with an inexplicable sense of dread, as if the message had reached deeper than just his phone. He stared at the glowing words for a long time. The silence around him slowly thickened, and the air felt heavier with each passing second, almost as if something unseen was waiting, patient, quiet, watching, just to see what he would do next. For a moment, Hassan actually considered deleting the message. But something in those 6 words held him, like a hand gripping his mind, refusing to let go. That was the moment everything changed. Hassan couldn't shake the message from his mind. Even as he tried to return to his work, his eyes kept drifting back to the glowing notification, like it was silently calling him. Finally, with a frustrated breath, he opened his laptop and typed the words Daria Village into the search bar. Nothing. He tried again, different spelling, different spacing, even different languages. Still, nothing. It was strange. Every place, no matter how tiny, no matter how forgotten, leaves some trace on the internet, an old photograph, a blog post, a tourist map, a complaint, a rumor, something. But Daria Village was like smoke. Every time Hassan tried to grasp it, it disappeared. That's when he found it. A single, old forum post from 2009. A website so outdated the background was still gray and the text was pixelated. The user had no picture, no bio, no history. Just a lonely sentence written in a shaky, almost frantic tone. People don't come back the same. There was no context. No replies. No follow-up posts. The account was created the exact same day the message was posted, and never used again. Hassan leaned back in his chair, suddenly aware of how silent his room had become. It felt unnatural, like the air was waiting for his reaction. He clicked around desperately, looking for anything, coordinates, comments, rumors, legends, but every link led to dead pages and error messages. It was as if someone had erased the village from existence. But the message on his phone said otherwise. A faint anxiety curled in his stomach, yet mixed with it was something even stronger, an irresistible pull, as though the name Daria Village had quietly slipped into his mind and found a place to stay. He felt a pressure behind his eyes, a whisper of curiosity turning sharper, deeper, almost predatory. He told himself he was simply intrigued. But deep inside, it felt like something wanted him to look. To search. To keep going. And Hassan didn't realize it then, but the moment he clicked on that forum post, the story had already started to close around him. Hassan didn't remember the exact moment he decided to leave his apartment. One second he was staring at his screen, and the next he was packing his camera, extra batteries, a flashlight, and a small thermos of coffee. It felt automatic, like his body moved before his mind could question it. He kept telling himself he was only going for research, just to check the place out, nothing more. But a small part of him already knew he wasn't coming back the same way he left. He stepped outside into the cold air. The sky was moonless, a dark sheet stretching endlessly above him. Even the streetlights seemed dimmer than usual, their glow fading unnaturally at the edges. He unlocked his Jeep, placed the camera bag in the back seat, and started the engine. For a moment, he just sat there, staring at the quiet road ahead, wondering why the night felt heavier than any other he had experienced. The journey started calmly enough. The highway was empty, silent, and far too still for that hour. The only sound was the engine humming beneath him. But after an hour of driving, the world around him began to change, subtly at first, then sharply. A soft fog rolled in, crawling across the asphalt like pale fingers stretching in every direction. The GPS on his phone froze, then flickered, then showed a blank white screen. The music he was playing cut abruptly into static, as if the radio waves were being swallowed by something unseen. He turned the volume off, but the static continued faintly, whispering through the speakers even when the system was switched off. It sounded like breathing, slow, uneven breathing, coming from somewhere far away, or very close. The temperature inside the Jeep dropped unnaturally. Hassan rubbed his hands together, but the cold felt wrong. It wasn't the normal chill of the night, it was sharper, almost metallic, like the air itself had lost its warmth. His headlights cut through the fog in thin, weak beams. Shapes flickered at the edges, trees, rocks, silhouettes he couldn't fully identify. Twice, he thought he saw someone standing at the side of the road, but when he slowed down, there was nothing there. Just the fog, thick and suffocating. He checked his rearview mirror out of habit. At first, he saw nothing but darkness. Then, a faint outline. Like a person standing in the middle of the road behind him. His heart skipped. He blinked. The outline was gone. He exhaled shakily and gripped the wheel tighter. Every instinct told him to turn around, to go home, to pretend none of this ever started. But something deeper pushed him forward, a whisper in his mind that murmured, just a little further. The fog grew denser, wrapping the Jeep like a cocoon. The air pressure changed, his ears popped. The surroundings became a blur, as if he were driving between worlds rather than on a road. Then suddenly, without warning, the road ended. No warning signs, no gradual slowdown. Just an abrupt stop, as if the path simply decided not to exist anymore. And standing in front of him was the wooden archway. The entrance to Daria village. The night around him felt alive, as if something had been expecting him. Hassan stepped out of the Jeep, his boots pressing into the damp earth with a muffled crunch. The fog thinned just enough for him to see the shape standing a few meters ahead, an old, towering wooden archway that rose from the ground like the ribs of some ancient creature. It looked impossibly old, but the wood wasn't decayed. It stood tall, waiting. He moved closer, each step slower than the last. The closer he got, the more he felt a subtle vibration in the air, like a low hum, too deep for the ears but loud enough for the bones. It crawled along his spine, making his fingers tremble slightly around the flashlight he held. Carved across the top of the arch, deep into the dark wood, were words that made his breath stall for a second. Daria village, don't enter after sunset. The words weren't faded. They weren't worn by time. They looked as if someone had carved them recently, yesterday, maybe even today. Hassan swallowed, his throat dry. What kind of place needs a warning like this, he whispered under his breath, though he wasn't sure who he was asking. Behind him, the Jeep made a soft clicking noise as the engine cooled down. The sound echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the emptiness like the night was hollow. For a moment, he considered getting back into the vehicle and driving away, but a strange pressure settled behind him, as if the road he came from was no longer safe either. He lifted his flashlight toward the arch, watching the beam stretch across the carved letters. The fog swirled gently underneath it, not drifting naturally, but moving with purpose, almost like it was following his light. As he stood at the threshold, he felt something change. The air on one side of the arch was icy, biting at his skin. But beyond the arch, it was colder in a different way. Not natural cold. Not the cold of weather. It felt like the temperature of a room where something had recently died. Still, he stepped forward. The moment his foot crossed under the arch, he felt a sudden pressure drop, as if the world behind him had sealed shut. The sound of the wind stopped. The distant hum of nature fell silent. Even the fog seemed to pause for a moment, hanging in the air like it was holding its breath. Hassan took another step. Then another. The archway stood behind him now, tall and unmoving, like a guardian that had just allowed him in, or trapped him completely. He didn't look back. He didn't want to. Because the air ahead of him felt populated. Not by people. But by attention. Something in the darkness beyond the arch had noticed his arrival. In the night, felt awake. Hassan stepped deeper into the village, his flashlight cutting through the dense, motionless air. The houses on either side of the narrow dirt path looked normal at first glance, wooden walls, slanted roofs, small porches, but the silence around them made everything feel wrong. Too still. Too perfect. A place abandoned by people still felt like a place abandoned by time. But this village didn't feel abandoned. It felt paused. He approached the first house slowly. The door was half open, swaying just barely, but there was no wind. Not even a whisper of it. The motion was too gentle, too rhythmic, almost as if an invisible hand was pushing it back and forth. Inside, his flashlight revealed a small dining table. On it sat a cup of tea, half full, steamless now but looking fresh, like someone had taken a sip moments before walking away. He leaned closer, breathing softly. The tea wasn't cold. It still held a fragile warmth. His chest tightened at the realization. Someone had been here recently. Very recently. Or something had touched it. His beam drifted to the floor. A chair lay slightly tilted, pulled away from the table as if someone had stood up too quickly. A scarf hung from its edge, the threads swaying gently despite the still air. The room felt untouched by dust, everything was clean, frozen between breaths. Hassan stepped back, heart pounding harder now. He moved toward the next house. This one looked exactly the same, door ajar, lights off, but everything inside arranged in a way that made no sense. A newspaper lay on the ground with the date still sharp and unfaded. The pages hadn't yellowed. The ink wasn't worn. It was like the day these homes were left, time had simply shut its eyes. He walked past a small yard where a children's bicycle lay on its side. The wheels weren't rusted, the paint was still bright red. But the ground around it had no footprints. No small marks. No trail leading to or away from it. As if the child riding it had simply vanished mid-motion. A soft sound made him turn, a faint plastic creak. He followed the noise and found a melted doll lying near a broken window. The doll's face sagged downward, its eyes warped and bulging in an unnatural, almost painful expression. The plastic had bubbled like it had been exposed to extreme heat. But the air around him was freezing. His hand shook as he picked it up. The doll's body was warm, unnervingly warm, like it had been touched or held by someone moments ago. Hassan dropped it instantly, the thud echoing too loudly in the dead-still village. He continued forward, flashlight trembling slightly now. More houses lined the street. All with open doors. All with half-done chores. Bowls of rice left on tables. Clothes mid-fold on beds. Shoes lined neatly by doors, untouched by dust. It didn't look like people had left. It looked like they had been taken. Taken from whatever they were doing. Taken in an instant. Hassan's breath fogged in the cold air. His footsteps felt too loud. The deeper he walked, the heavier the silence grew, thick enough to feel like a weight on his chest. He whispered to himself, "Something is wrong with this place." A strange instinct crawled across his mind. That he should not raise his voice. Not call out. Not disturb the quiet. Because the quiet wasn't empty. It was listening. And from somewhere deeper in the village, Hassan felt the first faint sensation of eyes watching him from a place just out of sight. As the atmosphere around you continues to settle, the silence becomes a kind of companion, gentle, steady, and strangely comforting. It's in this silence that your mind begins to open a little more, stretching slowly as if waking from a long, heavy sleep. Every thought that rises now feels lighter than before. You don't have to rush them, you don't have to force them, they come naturally, like soft waves touching the shore. And with each small wave, a deeper understanding starts to take shape within you. You notice how your body feels in this moment, the weight of your shoulders, the rhythm of your breath, the subtle calm flowing beneath your heartbeat. It's as if everything inside you is rearranging itself, finding a place, settling into a balance you didn't realize you were missing. Even the tension you didn't know you were holding begins to loosen, sliding away gently. A sense of quiet alignment forms, one that makes you feel connected to yourself again, fully and completely. The thoughts that once felt scattered begin to form a soft, flowing line, guiding your awareness. You can almost see the path they're creating, like a faint trail appearing through fog. There's no pressure to follow it, only a certainty that this path is yours, shaped by your experiences, your emotions, your questions. And as you acknowledge it, something in you responds with a calm, steady yes. A yes that doesn't need to be spoken. A yes that simply exists, steady and grounding. You begin to realize that the feelings from earlier, the confusion, the hesitation, the searching, they were not signs of weakness. They were signals, reminders that something inside you needed attention. Something real. Something meaningful. And now that you're listening, really listening, those signals begin to make sense. They're pointing toward the same direction your thoughts are forming, a direction you are now ready to understand. With every breath you take, clarity grows. Not in a sudden flash, not in a dramatic moment, but in a slow, gentle unfolding. It feels like dusk turning into night, so gradually that you don't notice the exact moment it changes, only that everything is now calmer, quieter, and more honest. You start to feel a kind of emotional courage rising from within you. A courage that doesn't shout, but stands firm. A courage that says, you're ready to move forward. Your mind drifts through the memories of today, the moments that shaped your thoughts, the tiny realizations that came and went like small sparks. And when you see them now, they don't look random. They look connected, like pieces of a larger pattern that's slowly revealing itself. You understand that step one wasn't just an introduction, it was a cleansing. A resetting. A way of bringing you back to yourself so that what comes next can truly begin. A warm heaviness settles inside your chest, not discomfort, not fear, but a grounded feeling. A feeling of being present. You're aware of the space around you, of your breathing, of your thoughts resting like calm water. And in that calmness, something shifts, gently but unmistakably. It's the understanding that you're not at the beginning anymore. You've crossed that point. You're standing somewhere new now, somewhere prepared, somewhere ready. Your inner awareness sharpens just a little more. Every second feels slower, stretched softly, giving you time to reflect, to breathe, to prepare. And this preparation doesn't feel forced. It feels natural, inevitable, like it was always meant to happen once you reach this moment. You begin to sense that there is something waiting for you ahead, something that requires this calm, this clarity, this readiness. The air around you feels different now. Not heavier, not lighter, just more aware. As if the space itself knows that you are standing on the edge of a new chapter. A chapter that won't be rushed, but will unfold at its own pace, guiding you deeper into understanding, deeper into awareness, deeper into the journey that step 2 will open. You take one more breath, slow, deep, steady. With that breath, everything inside you falls into place. The thoughts, the emotions, the questions, the clarity. They all settle like dust finally resting after swirling in the air for too long. And what remains is not confusion, but direction. Not noise, but focus. Not hesitation, but quiet courage. And as this realization spreads through you, the moment shifts. Step 1, gently fades. It does not end abruptly. It softens, dissolves, opening a clear space, an invitation for what comes next. And now, with your mind calm, your thoughts aligned, and your awareness fully awakened, Step 2 begins waiting for you, just beyond this moment. The moment you step into the quiet that follows, it feels different, thicker, colder, almost as if the air itself is waiting for your next move. You can sense it immediately. Step 1 is behind you now. That soft preparation, that gentle clarity, it has shifted into something sharper. The silence around you no longer feels empty, it feels watchful, like unseen eyes are adjusting to your presence, observing how you carry this new awareness. You breathe in slowly, and the air tastes unfamiliar, like something old, something untouched for years. There's a faint heaviness to it, a weight that settles on your skin as if the atmosphere is changing its shape around you. Your senses stretch, heighten, tuning into details you would normally overlook, distant echoes you can't place, a subtle trembling in the ground beneath your feet, and an uneasy vibration humming at the edge of your awareness. A strange feeling begins to coil inside you. Not fear exactly, but a pull. A quiet, steady invitation drawing you forward, guiding you deeper. It's as if some part of this place recognizes you, like it has been waiting for this exact moment, for you to be ready enough to step into its truth. The stillness grows thicker, almost physical, brushing against you like unseen fingers tracing your shoulders, your back, your thoughts. And in that moment, you realize something important. You are no longer preparing. You are entering. What lies ahead is not a thought or a memory. It is real. And it has begun. That faint echo returns, still distant, still barely there, but somehow clearer this time. It rolls through the silence like a slow pulse, a deep vibration slipping through the ground and rising into your legs. It feels almost like a heartbeat, but impossibly large, impossibly slow. For a moment, you can't tell if the sound is coming from far away or from right beneath you. The uncertainty crawls up your spine, leaving a cold, electric trail in its wake. Your surroundings continue to shift in ways that defy logic. The darkness seems to breathe, expanding and contracting in soft, rhythmic motions. Walls that felt close now feel farther. The path that seemed straight now curves subtly, as if the space itself is bending around you. Nothing happens with sudden movement, everything changes quietly, gently, almost respectfully. And that makes it even more unsettling. You catch a glimpse of something in the corner of your eye, a faint, tall outline, standing unnaturally still. But when you turn your head, the space is empty again. Only darkness. Only silence. Only the whispering cold pressing against your skin. Your chest tightens a little, not from fear, but from the strange awareness growing inside you, the awareness that you are not alone here. You never were. The air grows heavier, settling on your shoulders like a weight. Every breath you take feels slow, thick, chilled. It's as though the atmosphere is pressing closer, testing you, measuring how deeply you're willing to step into this place. A soft draft moves past you, barely noticeable, but it carries something with it, a scent. Faint, fragile, almost forgotten. Old wood. Damp earth. And something else, something like burned metal. You pause, listening again. The silence responds, deep, vast, and strangely alive. It feels like the whole place is holding its breath, waiting to see what you will do next. But the pull inside you grows stronger, threading through your thoughts, urging you forward. Not with fear. Not with force. With curiosity. With quiet inevitability. The ground beneath your feet shifts again, not physically, but in feeling. As if the earth recognizes your presence and adjusts itself to meet you. There's no sound, no crack, no movement. Just the subtle sensation that each step you take is being received by something ancient, something that has been waiting for a very long time. The shadows thicken at the edges of the path. They stretch outward like long fingers, reaching toward your ankles, your wrists, the corners of your vision. Yet they never touch you. They only hover, close enough to be felt, far enough to stay unseen. The deeper you go, the more the darkness begins to feel like it has weight, like it's gathering around you, forming a shape, circling you with quiet interest. Your heartbeat slows, matching the rhythm of the echo. The air stills. The path narrows. And the pull inside you sharpens into something clear. A quiet, undeniable call, urging you deeper. As you continue forward, something subtle begins to change, not around you, but inside your perception itself. The darkness no longer feels like an empty space you're walking through, it feels like a presence walking with you. Every step echoes back a fraction too late, as if the sound has to travel through something unseen before returning to your ears. It creates a strange delay, a soft distortion that makes you question whether you're hearing your own movement, or someone else's. Someone just a breath behind you. Your eyes scan the shifting shadows, searching for shapes your mind is certain must be there. The air in front of you trembles faintly, the way heat rises from asphalt, except here, there is no heat, only cold. The flickering distortion moves slowly, drifting left, then right, as though circling you with an intelligence that watches, studies, remembers. You try to focus on it, but the moment you do, it melts into the dark again, slipping away like smoke. The silence deepens into something almost physical. It presses against your thoughts, making the world feel narrowed, tunneled, as if the darkness is guiding your attention exactly where it wants it. You sense it, that intentional pull. This place isn't random. It isn't wild. It's deliberate, like a maze designed by something that knows how your mind works, knows what will make you hesitate, what will make you keep going. A breath of cold air glides across your neck, slow and precise, like a fingertip tracing your spine. You freeze, not out of fear, but out of instinct. The touch doesn't feel accidental. It feels aware. It lingers there for a heartbeat longer, then slips away, swallowed by the heavy stillness. And in its absence, your skin prickles with the realization that something is close, so close you can almost feel the outline of its presence behind you. But when you turn, you see nothing. No figure. No shape. Only the thick, watching dark. Your pulse shifts again, finding a new rhythm, one that mirrors the slow echo deep beneath the ground. The two sounds blend, your heartbeat and that ancient thrum, until it's hard to tell where you end and the place begins. It's as if something is syncing with you, aligning with your steps, your breath, your thoughts. The path ahead narrows even more, the shadows closing in like walls. But instead of fear, a strange calm settles into you, a calm born not from safety, but from acceptance. You know now that whatever waits deeper inside this place is aware of your arrival. It has felt your presence. It has touched your thoughts. And it is no longer hiding. It is waiting. You take another step, and the ground beneath you shifts with a faint, almost imperceptible tremor. It's not violent or sudden, it's gentle, deliberate, like the slow inhale of something massive resting deep beneath the earth. The vibration moves through your feet, your legs, your chest, until it settles behind your ribs, merging with your breath. For a moment, it feels like the land itself is breathing with you, or breathing for you. The darkness thickens ahead, forming what looks like a narrow passage. You can't see where it leads, but the air flowing from it feels different, colder, older, and carrying a strange metallic tang that coats your tongue with every inhale. The scent is familiar in a way you can't explain, as though you've smelled it once in a dream you barely remember. It lingers, unsettling yet oddly inviting, pulling your curiosity deeper into the unknown. You pause, listening again, and that's when you hear it. A sound so faint, so fragile, that at first you think it's your imagination. But it's not. It's a whisper. Not a word, not a voice. Just the breath of something forming in the dark. It drifts toward you like a thin thread of cold air brushing against your cheek. You turn your head slightly, trying to follow it, but the whisper fades instantly, melting back into the silence as if it never existed. Yet its presence leaves an unmistakable tension behind, a subtle awareness that something unseen has tried, just for a moment, to speak to you. You step forward again, slower this time, and the shadows respond. They pull back, not in fear, but like curtains drawing aside for a guest who has finally arrived. The narrow passage ahead seems to open wider, revealing hints of jagged shapes and uneven ground, the outline of structures that should not be here. They look old, impossibly old, worn down not by time but by memory itself. As if the place has been half forgotten and half erased, surviving only in fragments. The air grows even colder, enough to sting your lungs when you inhale. But you keep moving, guided by something deeper than curiosity now, something instinctive, primal, like a pull from a part of you that recognizes this place even if your mind refuses to. Each step sends a soft echo outward, and every echo returns with the same delay, that same strange hesitation, as if something in the dark must decide whether to send the sound back to you. You glance over your shoulder one last time, expecting, no, sensing, that a silhouette might be standing there. But the darkness remains still, empty, quiet. And yet, you can't shake the feeling that something is moving just beyond your sight, pacing you from a distance, never too close, never too far. Watching. Waiting. Learning every detail of your presence. And as you face forward again, the passage seems to pulse faintly, almost like it's alive, beating slowly, inviting you deeper into its hidden heart. Wherever this leads, whatever lies ahead. You know now that turning back is no longer an option. Not because you can't, but because something has already drawn you in. The moment you cross deeper into the passage, the air changes again, but this time, it isn't temperature or scent. It's the feeling of space itself tightening around you, as though the walls, the ground, the ceiling, if there even is one, have all shifted closer. Not enough to trap you, not enough to restrict your steps, just enough to remind you that you are being guided, not wandering. The darkness moves differently here. It no longer drifts like mist or folds like shadows. Instead, it behaves with an eerie precision, parting only where you step, closing quietly behind you as if sealing your path 1 inch at a time. Your footsteps begin to sound wrong. Not louder. Not softer. Just wrong. The echoes bounce back with a faint distortion, as though the stone, or whatever this ground is made of, absorbs the sound and returns it slightly twisted, slightly hollow. Every step you take comes back with a tone that doesn't match the one you made. It feels copied. Mimicked. As though something is repeating your movements half a second too late. You slow your pace, listening carefully. Tap. A second tap. Your foot. Not your foot. The realization sends a cold ripple down your spine. Somewhere behind you, or beside you, or inside the walls, something is pacing with you. Matching your steps, tracing your movement like a shadow learning how to walk. The cold deepens as you move farther, but it's no longer the natural cold of air. This cold feels intentional, focused on you, drawn to you, wrapping around you like invisible strands of ice. Your breath exits your mouth in faint clouds, and each exhale seems to vanish too quickly, swallowed before it fades. It becomes clear that this passage is not simply dark, it is draining something from the space around you. Light. Warmth. Sound. Presence. Then, ahead of you, something flickers. Faint. Uncertain. Like a ripple of pale light sliding across stone. It doesn't glow. It doesn't shine. It moves, like a reflection with no source. The flicker pulses once, twice, as if acknowledging your approach. For a moment, you freeze, unsure if it's safer to keep going or remain still. But the pull within you, quiet, steady, insistent, tugs at your mind again, urging you forward. You realize that this place doesn't push you deeper. It waits for you to choose to go deeper, and that makes the air heavier with every breath. You step closer, and the flicker darts away with unnatural speed, vanishing deeper into the narrowing corridor like it's leading you somewhere. The brief glimpse leaves an impression behind, a shape, tall and thin, bending where no body should bend, but you aren't sure if you really saw it, or if your mind tried to form a shape from the motion. You swallow hard, the sound loud in the smothering quiet, and as you keep moving, you feel the passage beginning to widen again, subtly, slowly, like a throat opening into a larger hollow space. the air grows stiller, heavier, charged with the unmistakable sense that something is waiting just beyond this emerging darkness. And for the first time, you feel, not imagine, not sense, but truly feel, that you are walking toward a presence that has been awake long before you arrived. As the hours moved forward, the atmosphere around him began to shift in almost unnoticeable ways, tiny details that slowly gathered into something meaningful. The same room that once felt heavy and silent now seemed to hum faintly with a kind of gentle energy, the kind that only reveals itself when someone finally chooses to pause long enough to feel it. He noticed how the light filtering through the window kept changing its shape on the floor, stretching, folding, and widening like a slow-moving tide. The glow wasn't bright, yet it held a softness that reminded him that even quiet places have their own rhythm. This subtle dance of light made him think of how many moments in life pass quietly, without fanfare, yet still carry the power to shape a person's inner world. Sitting there, he realized how rarely he allowed himself to simply exist without forcing direction or rushing toward the next task. The stillness around him no longer felt empty, it felt like a space that had been waiting, patiently, for him to return to himself. He exhaled deeply, letting his shoulders drop, letting his mind loosen its grip on the thoughts it always chased. For months, he had carried so much without ever acknowledging the weight. But in that moment, he became aware of it, not as something painful, but as something human. Everyone carries invisible burdens, he thought, yet very few take the time to observe them, understand them, or gently set them down, even for a while. He leaned back slightly, letting his gaze wander across the objects around him, the table with a few scattered papers, the chair near the corner that hadn't been moved in weeks, the faint imprint on the carpet where his feet usually rested. Everything appeared ordinary, but for the first time, he saw purpose in their stillness. These quiet objects, the unmoving corners, the untouched spaces, they were all tiny witnesses of his routine, his habits, his unnoticed patterns. And now, as he observed them, it felt as if each detail was reflecting an inner truth he had long ignored. Life doesn't always reveal its meaning through loud moments, sometimes it speaks through the silent ones. He closed his eyes again, allowing the quiet to settle. A slow calm washed over him, like a wave that didn't rush but arrived with certainty. This time, his mind didn't fight the stillness. Instead, it opened to it, letting the silence become a language he could finally understand. Thoughts didn't crowd him, they passed by gently, memories, questions, realizations, all moving at a pace he could finally follow. He remembered people he missed, goals he had delayed, promises he had made to himself but forgotten. Yet instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt grounded. There was a new kind of clarity emerging, not loud or dramatic, but steady, like a lamp quietly illuminating a dark corner. The more he let this clarity settle, the more he understood why stepping away from noise, external and internal, was necessary. So much of his recent life had been filled with rushing, reacting, jumping from one moment to another without truly experiencing any of them. But here, in this moment of deep stillness, he recognized the difference between living and merely moving. Living required presence, moving required only motion. And for the first time in a long while, he felt truly present, not for the world, not for any responsibilities, but for himself. He breathed in, then out, and with each breath, he felt a sense of alignment pulling him back to center. It wasn't dramatic or mystical, it was simple, human, real. Something inside him felt like it was settling back into place, like dust finally calming after being disturbed for too long. His heartbeat felt slower, steadier, almost synchronized with the quiet rhythm of the room around him. It made him realize how deeply connected the inner world is with the outer one. When one calms, the other follows. A faint smile appeared on his face, not because something amusing happened, but because he had rediscovered a feeling he didn't realize he had been missing, peace without condition. It wasn't dependent on solving problems, achieving goals, or changing circumstances. It came from acknowledging himself, from sitting with his thoughts without fear or urgency. And in that softness, a new kind of strength was born, a strength that didn't need to shout or prove anything, but simply existed, steady and gentle. He opened his eyes again, and the room looked the same, yet everything felt different. The light, the silence, the stillness, they were all still there, but now they felt connected to him rather than separate. He understood that moments like this aren't accidents, they are invitations. Invitations to pause, to listen, to breathe, to understand, to reconnect. And finally, after a long time, he accepted that invitation fully. The air around you shifts one last time, soft, cold, and quietly deliberate. It feels as though the darkness is leaning in, waiting for your next breath, your next step, your next choice. Something in the quiet moves, faint, distant, almost calling your name. And in that moment, you know this calm is over. Something ahead has awakened, and step 3 begins from here. As you move further into that thick, metallic silence, each step begins to feel strangely disconnected from your body, almost as if the ground beneath you is slowing time with every touch. The air brushes against your skin in thin, cold ribbons, carrying with it a sense of distance, like this place exists somewhere far beyond the world you know. The darkness ahead isn't just absence of light anymore, it feels layered, alive, shifting in slow, deliberate patterns that you can't fully see but can somehow feel, pressing softly against your awareness. That faint vibration beneath your feet grows steadier, not louder, just more defined, like a pulse hidden in the stone, syncing itself with your own heartbeat. The strange part is you can't tell whether it's guiding you forward or warning you to turn back. The shadows around you stretch slightly with each breath, bending inward, leaning closer, as if examining you. Not threatening, not welcoming, but attentive. Watching. You know something has awakened here, not in a sudden jolt, but in a slow, ancient stirring that has been waiting for the right moment. And with every second that passes, you can feel it becoming aware of you in ways that bypass all sound. The air feels charged, almost intelligent, carrying a quiet pressure that settles on your shoulders and sinks into your thoughts. The longer you stand there, the more it feels like the darkness is learning you, your presence, your fear, your hesitation. But despite that weight, there's a strange pull urging you onward. A curiosity. A whisper without sound. A sense that whatever lies ahead is not simply something for you to face, but something meant to be revealed, now, at this exact moment. And though the silence around you remains unbroken, the path in front of you feels unmistakably open, waiting for your next step. Because whatever woke up in this place has already noticed you. And it isn't going back to sleep. You take another careful step forward, and the air shifts again, subtle, but unmistakable, like a long, slow exhale from something hidden just beyond the reach of your sight. The floor beneath you feels smoother now, almost polished by time, as if countless moments have passed through this corridor before you ever arrived. A faint echo trails behind your movement, stretching a split second longer than it should, as though the space itself is repeating your presence back to you, studying it, testing how you react. There's a soft hum in the air that wasn't there before, barely audible, almost woven into the silence, but you feel it more than you hear it. A low, steady resonance that seems to rise from the walls, from the floor, maybe even from the darkness itself. It carries a rhythm, slow and deliberate, like a distant heartbeat buried inside the structure of this place. It vibrates gently against your skin, and for a moment you're not sure whether it's coming from outside, or from somewhere deep inside your chest. Your eyes try to adjust, reaching for detail, shape, movement, but everything ahead remains dissolving shadows, changing slightly each time you blink. For a brief second, it feels like the corridor expands and contracts with your breath, as if alive, breathing with you. And the sensation, unsettling yet strangely magnetic, pulls you forward again. You can feel the boundary now, not physical, but something unseen, like you're crossing from the edge of the known into the first thin layer of whatever lies beyond. And the deeper you move, the more the silence seems to shift around you, less empty, more aware. Not hostile, not welcoming, simply observing. Whatever presence awakened here is no longer just watching. It's listening. A few more steps forward, and the darkness begins to change, not brighter, not clearer, just different. You can't tell exactly how, only that something subtle has shifted in the atmosphere, like a curtain being lifted in a room you thought was empty. The shadows seem to ripple, bending at the edges, reacting to your movement with the slightest tremor. It's almost imperceptible, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Every inch of darkness looks like it's folding into itself, breathing slow, quiet breaths that mimic your own tempo. You pause, unsure if you should go on, but the silence that wraps around you doesn't feel like a silence created by emptiness. It feels like the kind that exists just before something speaks, or moves, or reveals itself. A silence packed with intention. A silence that waits. And somehow, you sense that whatever is waiting is doing it with unnerving patience. The kind of patience that doesn't need light, or warmth, or time. The kind that comes from something ancient. Your fingers brush against the wall beside you, not for support, but for confirmation that the world around you is still solid, real, grounded. The surface is cold, colder than it should be, and strangely smooth, like stone polished not by hands, but by something that touched it over and over for years, or centuries. The chill from it slips through your skin, traveling up your arm, settling at the base of your neck in a faint, electric prickle that refuses to fade. You breath out slowly, trying to keep quiet, but even your soft exhale sounds too loud in this space. The air swallows it in an unnatural way, like the darkness absorbs every sound it can steal. Nothing echoes back, not your footsteps, not your breathing, not even the small shift of fabric on your clothes. It's as if the corridor doesn't want your presence to leave any trace. As if the space is drinking the noise before it can escape. When you move again, the temperature drops further, so subtly that it feels more like a sensation creeping along your skin rather than actual cold. A slow, creeping numbness spreads across your fingertips first, then your hands, then slowly up your arms. But the numbness isn't uncomfortable. It feels too deliberate for that, too controlled, too intentional. Like something is testing the boundaries of your awareness, mapping the edges of your nerves, learning where your senses begin and end. There's a faint, almost invisible movement near the far end of the corridor. You can't tell if it's a trick of the darkness or something genuinely shifting, but your instinct reacts before your eyes can confirm anything. Your heart adjusts its rhythm, beating just a little faster, a little heavier. Enough that you feel the pressure in your chest, the warmth in your throat. And the corridor, for a moment, almost seems to pulse with you, lights or no lights, walls or no walls. Just you, and the steady realization that you're not alone here. You take another step, and the faint hum that followed you earlier seems to deepen, thickening into something more layered, more textured. It isn't just a single vibration anymore. It's as if multiple tones blend into each other, low, distant, wavering, overlapping like several breaths exhaled at once. None human. None comforting. Yet none fully threatening either. It feels like a warning softened into a whisper. And then you feel it, behind you. A shift in the air. A gentle displacement. Not loud enough to be a footstep, not sharp enough to be movement. But real enough to make the hairs along your spine rise one by one. You don't turn. You don't breathe. For a moment, you simply exist in that thin layer of reality where fear and awareness overlap so tightly they become indistinguishable. The feeling behind you doesn't press closer. It doesn't move away either. It just stays there, silent, waiting, watching. As if it knows that turning around would break something delicate in this moment, something the darkness doesn't want broken. Your heartbeat quickens again, but this time the corridor doesn't pulse with it. Instead, everything grows still, so still that it feels like the entire place is holding its breath with you, anticipating what you'll do next. You can't see who or what is behind you, but you know, without any doubt, that something is there now. Something that wasn't before. And the only way to face it is to keep moving forward. You force your legs to move, but each step feels heavier than the last, as though the darkness ahead is thickening, becoming a weight you have to push through. The air carries a faint metallic taste now, a cold, sharp tang that clings to the back of your tongue, as if something unseen has bled into the atmosphere. With every breath you draw in, it feels like you're inhaling a whisper of something old, something buried, something that should have stayed forgotten. Yet here it is, circling you quietly, patiently, like a subtle reminder that you've stepped too deep to turn back. The corridor stretches longer than before, unnaturally long, almost as if the very space is bending with you, rearranging itself in small, silent ways every time you blink. The walls, once smooth and cold, now carry faint lines along their surface. Thin grooves, like scratches or carvings, running in uneven patterns as though something dragged its claws or fingers along them over and over again. You can't tell what made them, but they don't look random. They trail in the same direction you're walking, almost guiding you. Or warning you. A distant sound stirs, so soft it feels more like a memory than a noise. A faint tapping, slow, spaced out, irregular, as if someone is tapping their fingernail lightly against stone somewhere far ahead. Tap, pause, tap tap, pause, tap. You hold your breath, listening carefully, trying to tell if it's real or your imagination trying to fill the void. But the sound continues, not growing louder, not fading away, just softly repeating, as though it's signaling a rhythm only the corridor understands. Your footsteps begin to feel swallowed again, absorbed instantly by the darkness beneath you. Yet now there's a strange sensation underfoot, a faint vibration that pulses through the ground, rising in slow waves into your legs. Not enough to shake, just enough to be felt, like the heartbeat of a massive creature sleeping deep below, somewhere in the unseen layers of this place. And each pulse seems perfectly timed with the tapping, as if both come from the same unseen source. You slow down without meaning to. Something about the space ahead feels denser, heavier, like an invisible veil hangs across your path, waiting for you to pass through it. The air thickens as you approach it, wrapping around your shoulders and chest like cold water. You feel it drag slightly against your clothes, the way wind pulls at fabric, but there is no wind here. No movement. Just the sensation of crossing into a deeper, quieter layer of the corridor's hidden truth. Your fingers trail along the wall again, searching for stability, but the grooves beneath your touch have deepened. They feel sharper now, the edges slightly raised, as if they weren't carved long ago, but recently. Very recently. The stone feels different too, warmer, as though whatever carved these marks left a faint trace of itself behind, lingering beneath the surface, waiting to be noticed. A chill crawls up your spine as the realization settles uncomfortably in your mind. You're not following old signs. You're following fresh ones. Somewhere in the distance, the faint tapping suddenly stops. The silence that replaces it is heavier, thick, pressing, suffocating, like the entire corridor has leaned in closer to listen. Your heartbeat echoes loudly in your ears, too loud, too present, and for the first time you begin to wonder if something else can hear it too. Something patient. Something hidden. Something that's been waiting for you to reach this exact point. You swallow hard, the sound feeling painfully loud in the oppressive quiet. And then, there's a soft pressure behind you. Not a touch, not movement, just the unmistakable feeling of space shifting at your back, like the darkness has stepped forward, closing the distance you kept between yourself and whatever was following you. You feel its presence settle in, calm and deliberate, as if it's choosing this moment to draw slightly closer. Close enough for you to sense it. Close enough to remind you that every step you've taken, it has taken one too. Your breath shivers in your chest. You don't dare look back. You don't dare stop. Instead, you keep moving, slowly, quietly, into the deepening dark, knowing that whatever follows is matching your pace perfectly, patiently, almost protectively. As if guiding you towards something it already knows you will eventually find. The corridor narrows as you continue forward, so gradually, so silently, that you don't notice the change until your shoulders brush against the walls. The stone feels warmer now, pulsing with faint vibrations that echo through your fingertips like distant breathing. For a moment, you wonder if the warmth is coming from the stone itself, or from something behind the stone, something alive, something slowly waking up as you move deeper into this place. Every step you take seems to tug a thread somewhere in the darkness, unraveling a quiet tension that has been coiled here for far longer than you've been alive. A faint light appears ahead, so dim it's almost nothing more than a suggestion, a fragile shimmer, like moonlight seen through a thick fog. It doesn't brighten the corridor, doesn't reveal anything new. Instead, it hovers in the distance, unmoving, like an eye half open, watching your approach with chilled disinterest. Your heartbeat quickens, not from fear, but from the suffocating stillness around you, that unsettling sense that the walls, the floor, even the air itself is waiting for you to notice something you haven't yet seen. The tapping sound from before returns, this time softer, slower, as though something is tapping from inside the walls. Tap, 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 each one spaced apart by long stretches of silence that feel purposeful, intentional. Almost like the rhythm is communicating something. You place your hand against the stone again, and the heat beneath the surface flickers, quickly, sharply, like a pulse reacting to your touch. You pull your hand back immediately. The wall cools almost instantly, returning to lifeless stone, but you know what you felt. Something behind it responded to you. A cold current of air slips past your ankle, drifting from somewhere near the ground. You crouch down slowly, sensing a thin, low gap between the floor and the wall, a crack, narrow but deep, exhaling breath after breath of cold air as if something is hiding in the darkness underneath, whispering against the stone. You lean closer, straining to listen. For a moment, there is nothing. Only quiet. And then, a faint whisper brushes your ear. You jerk upright, heart pounding so violently it seems to echo through the corridor. You turn your head slightly, listening, hoping it was just your mind playing tricks on you. But the whisper returns, softer this time, like a single word stretched into a sigh. It's impossible to understand, impossible to identify the voice, but the tone feels unmistakably clear. It sounds like it's calling you deeper. It sounds like it's telling you you're almost there. The narrow walls press closer around you as you continue, so close that your breath rebounds back at your face, warm and shaky. The faint light ahead begins to pulse, dim, bright, dim again, as though matching your heartbeat. Every time it brightens, you can make out faint shapes etched along the walls, symbols, markings, unfamiliar curves and lines that twist into patterns your mind struggles to interpret. Some look almost human. Others do not. And then the scent hits you. A soft, sweet smell, faint but noticeable, drifting gently through the corridor like perfume carried on a cold breeze. It's subtle at first, then grows stronger, floral, almost comforting, the kind of fragrance that belongs in a calm place, not in a suffocating tunnel buried in darkness. The contrast is so unnatural that your instincts flare instantly. This scent shouldn't be here. Nothing living should be here. Yet something is. You slow your pace, listening carefully now. The tapping behind the walls has stopped again. The whispering has faded. The vibrations under your feet soften into something smoother, more fluid, as if the ground beneath you is no longer stone but something shifting, something adjusting itself in response to your presence. You feel the corridor widen just slightly, just enough for air to move differently, for the darkness ahead to thicken into a shape that feels less empty and more waiting. The faint light glows again. This time brighter. Bright enough for you to see the silhouette. A tall, unmoving figure stands at the end of the corridor, far enough that you can't see details, close enough that you know it's not a trick of your eyes. It stands perfectly still, not breathing, not shifting, not reacting. Just watching. Or waiting. Your entire body goes cold. The sweet scent intensifies, wrapping around you like a lure, urging you forward. A low vibration hums beneath the ground, building in slow waves that move toward the figure as though the entire corridor is drawing its focus toward that shape, feeding into it, awakening it. You take one slow step toward the figure. Then another. The darkness bends. The light flickers. And the figure tilts its head slightly, as if acknowledging your arrival. Your breath catches in your throat. Because now, at this exact moment, you understand something. Up until now, you've been walking into darkness. But from this moment onward, the darkness is walking toward you. And this is where step 3 ends. Because the next step begins the moment that figure moves. And in step 4, paragraph 1, it finally does. The figure at the end of the corridor shifts, so subtly, so slowly, that for a heartbeat you're not sure it moved at all. But then its head turns a fraction more, the motion quiet and deliberate, like someone waking from a deep, ancient sleep. You feel the air tighten around you, compressing your chest, as if the entire corridor is holding its breath in sync with the creature. The faint light behind it flickers again, stretching its shadow long across the floor, distorted and trembling, reaching toward you like dark fingers crawling over the ground. Your instincts scream for you to step back, but your legs don't respond. It's as though something unseen is wrapped around your ankles, keeping you rooted to the spot, forcing you to witness whatever happens next. The figure straightens slightly, its outline sharpening at the edges, becoming more defined. It still doesn't walk. It doesn't rush. It simply leans forward, as if studying you with a patience that feels far too intelligent, far too aware. A low, distant sound rises from behind the walls, a rumble, deep and muffled, like stone shifting under enormous weight. Dust falls lightly from above, drifting through the faint glow between you and the figure. And then the corridor itself seems to respond, the floor trembles, the air grows colder, and the faint sweet scent that filled the air before now twists into something sharper, something metallic and unsettling. You swallow hard, your heartbeat thundering in your ears, but the only thing you can focus on is the figure's shadow. Because it's moving closer even though the figure itself has not taken a single step. The shadow slides forward first, stretching unnaturally, gliding across the ground with a fluid motion that doesn't match the stillness of the figure casting it. It moves as if it has a will of its own, reaching for you with long, trembling strokes that blur at the edges like smoke trying to solidify. You stumble back a single step, but the shadow follows immediately, closing the distance with slow, deliberate certainty. It shouldn't be possible. Shadows don't move on their own. Shadows don't break free from their source. But this one does, and with every inch it takes, the air grows heavier. The figure still hasn't walked toward you, but its shape is changing. Slowly, subtly, the outline begins to shift, bending at the shoulders, narrowing at the waist, elongating at the limbs. Each adjustment happens with a soft crack of bone-like echoes, faint but unmistakable, as though whatever stands before you is reassembling itself into something it wasn't moments before. The corridor responds again. A low groan travels through the walls, vibrating through the stone like a warning, or a greeting. Dust scatters from above, drifting through the dim light like ash falling through cold air. You feel warmth behind you, a faint pressure, as if the darkness that once followed you was creeping closer again, refusing to stay behind for long. Your breath shortens. Your throat tightens. The corridor seems smaller now, as if the walls have leaned inward, pushing you toward the figure whether you want to go or not. And in the shimmering pulse of the dim light, you finally see something beneath the hooded outline of the figure, a pair of faintly reflective shapes. Not eyes. Something deeper. Something watching from within the darkness of its face, glowing with a soft, unnatural pulse. For a moment, everything in your body freezes. Because the shapes don't look human. They look aware. They look like they recognize you. And the shadow beneath the figure thickens, preparing to move again. The corridor grows impossibly quiet, so quiet that you begin to hear things you've never noticed before, the faint clicking of your own teeth as you clench your jaw, the dry rustle of fabric as your clothes shift with your trembling breath, and beneath all of it, the steady thump of your heartbeat echoing like a drum inside your skull. Every sound you make feels amplified, exposed, as if the walls themselves are listening to every tiny movement, analyzing them, absorbing them. And then the figure's shadow twitches. Not naturally, not like something cast by light. It twitches like something alive that just felt a spark of irritation, or interest. It spreads wider across the floor, thinning and stretching as if pulled by invisible fingers. It moves around stones, crawls up the walls, slides across your shoes, and coils softly around your ankles, not tight, not painful, but undeniably present. A cold numbness slips through your legs, creeping upward in slow, spiraling waves. You try to step back, but your body reacts too slowly, as though the corridor is filled with thick water and you're trying to move through it. The dim light flickers again, and the figure's outline solidifies. You see the faint curve of a shoulder, the long, narrow slope of its arms, the unnatural stillness of its stance. Its chest doesn't rise. It doesn't breathe. Not a single motion suggests life, yet the air around it pulses with a presence so powerful you can feel it pressing gently against your skin, as if testing your reaction. Something changes in its face, just a small shift, a tight contraction of darkness where its eyes should be. The faint reflective shapes move, sliding slowly to the side as the figure tilts its head a few degrees lower, aligning its gaze with yours. For a moment, the world freezes. Every instinct you have, every instinct your ancestors have ever had, screams inside you, warning you that you're being seen by something that should not see you. A soft sound escapes the darkness behind the figure. A whisper. You can't understand it, not the language, not the tone, but the intention behind it is unmistakable. It sounds like someone trying to say your name, without lungs, without breath, without a human voice. The walls vibrate in response, shaking just enough to make the dust fall like light snowfall around you. Thin cracks creep along the ceiling, spider webbing slowly as though something beneath the surface is pushing outward, ready to break through. The corridor pulses with a deep, rhythmic tremor, just like a heartbeat, but this one doesn't match yours. It's slower. Heavier. Ancient. And as it spreads through the floor beneath your feet, you feel it travel up your bones. The shadow wrapped around your ankles tightens, just slightly, as if encouraging you forward, urging you closer to the figure. You try to speak, to call out, to force a sound from your throat, but your voice collapses into silence before it leaves your mouth. The air refuses to carry your words. It refuses to let noise exist. It's as though the corridor doesn't want your voice here, not yet. The figure straightens slowly, rising to its full height. It must be at least 7 feet tall now, towering over the narrow space, its head brushing against the low ceiling. More of its form comes into view, long limbs, impossibly thin, almost skeletal beneath the cloak of darkness. The light behind it pulses, revealing for the first time something like fingers, long, sharp, tapering into points that hint at something predatory, something designed not for holding but for tearing. A faint hiss escapes the corridor, coming not from the figure, but from everywhere around you, as if the darkness has taken a breath in unison. The sweet scent from earlier returns, mixing uneasily with a metallic aroma so sharp it stings the back of your throat. It smells like old stone, and old blood. Your pulse hammers harder, but the corridor's slow heartbeat doesn't change. It keeps beating at its own ancient rhythm, unaffected by your rising panic. And as the figure's shadow loosens from your legs, it shifts upward, coiling around your waist, then your chest, rising like a cold tide. Not choking. Just holding. Holding you still. The figure tilts its head again, and the reflective shapes in its face pulse once. Soft, dim, deliberate. As though signaling something. And then the darkness behind it parts. Not disappearing, splitting. As if the corridor is opening a mouth. The shadow around your chest tightens gently. Something is coming. Something that step 4 will reveal next. Something you're not supposed to run from anymore. The corridor seems to exhale a long, trembling breath the moment the darkness behind the figure splits open. The air rushes past you in a sudden wave, cold, sharp, and carrying with it the unmistakable smell of damp stone mixed with something older, something rotten buried beneath layers of time. The faint light flickers violently, as though struggling to stay alive in the presence of whatever is awakening in the shadows. You lift your hand instinctively to shield your face, but the light dims again on its own, shrinking into a small, trembling pulse, as if it fears being noticed. The darkness behind the towering figure begins to ripple, expanding and contracting in slow, rhythmic movements, like the lungs of something massive lurking unseen. Each ripple distorts the air, sending vibrations crawling along the walls and through the floor under your feet. You feel each one in your bones, a deep, resonant thrum that nearly matches the corridor's ancient heartbeat from earlier, but not quite. This heartbeat is different. Heavier. More powerful. More alive. The figure's head remains tilted, watching you with that motionless patience that makes your skin crawl. But now, its body reacts to the rippling darkness behind it. The long, pointed fingers twitch once, barely noticeable, before elongating even further, stretching slowly like they've been asleep for too long and are remembering how to move. You watch, horrified, as each finger cracks softly, the sound traveling up the corridor like brittle ice breaking under weight. The figure doesn't rush. It moves with deliberate slowness, as if savoring the moment, or preparing for something. Then, a sound emerges from the dark opening behind it. A low, distant wail. Not human. Not animal. Something in between. The noise slides along the corridor like a living thread, curling into your ears, vibrating against your skull. It echoes deep inside your chest, as if your ribs are responding to it, resonating with the same frequency. You clutch your arms tightly, instinctively trying to keep yourself grounded, but the sound is everywhere, above you, behind you, surrounding you. It feels less like a sound and more like a presence that is trying to slip under your skin. The corridor lights flicker once more, and for a brief moment, the figure's shadow expands outward across the walls. It stretches so far that it covers nearly everything: your shoes, the floor, the ceiling, your legs, and you feel a wave of cold surge up your spine as it reaches your chest. You step back without thinking, but the shadow follows immediately, clinging to your movement like a second skin. It doesn't pull you. It doesn't force you. It simply stays with you. As if it has chosen you. The rippling darkness behind the figure splits further, opening like a tear in reality. Within that opening, shapes begin to emerge, tiny at first, then growing larger, rising slowly as though the corridor is lifting them out from beneath itself. You can't make out their forms, only their movement, something crawling upward, dragging itself toward the light that flickers weakly above. A light that looks like it might die if those shapes come any closer. The sweet fragrance returns again, but now it carries a deeper undercurrent, something warm, almost inviting at first. But mixed with it is a hint of decay, faint but undeniable. A smell like damp soil freshly disturbed, or wooden beams rotting in a house long abandoned. The blend confuses your senses, your mind can't decide whether to fear it or be drawn toward it. The figure finally moves. Not a step. Just a shift. It lifts its head fully, revealing the glowing shapes inside its face more clearly. They brighten, two dim orbs pulsing softly in the darkness like dying embers being fanned back to life. Their glow spills into the corridor, illuminating the dust hanging in the air. The dust particles drift toward the figure slowly, as if caught in a silent gravitational pull, spiraling gently into the darkness around its body. And then, the shadow around your chest begins to move again. It rises. Up your neck. Across your jaw. Curling behind your head like a cold hand that wants to guide your gaze toward the darkness behind the figure. You fight the urge to turn. You fight the instinct pulling at your bones. But the corridor feels alive now, pushing at your back, urging you closer to whatever waits beyond the split in the darkness. There is a soft sound. A quiet, almost tender whisper. It doesn't come from the figure. It comes from the opening behind it. And this time, you don't just hear it. You understand the intention behind it. It's calling you forward. Not out of curiosity. Not out of malice. But because whatever is behind that opening has been waiting for you specifically. The figure shifts again, its shadow tightening. The corridor groans. And the shapes in the darkness begin to rise higher. You are seconds away from seeing what they are. Seconds away from crossing a boundary you cannot return from. And step 4 is only getting started. As he stepped through the archway, the warm glow of the symbols brightened for the final time, then slowly faded into the air like dust made of light. The forest behind him quieted, settling into a stillness that felt like closure, not abandonment. The storm had ended long ago, but now even the memory of it seemed to dissolve into the calm that surrounded him. Before him stretched a clearing, open, vast, and illuminated by a pale silver light. It didn't come from the moon, nor from any stars above. It came from the ground itself, as though the earth had chosen this single place to reveal a truth hidden for ages. And in the center of that gentle glow stood a stone pedestal, simple in shape but powerful in presence. It was unmarked, uncarved, yet it radiated a quiet strength that pulled him forward. He approached slowly, each step echoing with everything he had endured. The fear, the confusion, the lessons, the questions he still held, they all seemed to rise to the surface and then fall away like leaves in a passing wind. By the time he reached the pedestal, he felt weightless, as though he had shed every burden he carried when he first entered the forest. Resting on the pedestal was a single object, a small shard of crystal, glowing faintly with the same pulse as the symbols that had guided him. He reached out, unsure of what touching it would mean, but deeply aware that this moment was the reason he had been drawn here. As his fingers brushed the crystal, a warm rush swept through him, not a vision, not a voice, but a feeling. A knowing. A realization. The forest, the symbols, the path, the storm, none of it had been random. None of it had been punishment. And none of it had been meant to break him. It had all been a mirror. A reflection of every fear he avoided. Every truth he denied. Every strength he didn't yet realize he carried. The forest had not shown him something new. It had shown him himself. Slowly, the crystal dimmed, its purpose fulfilled, and dissolved into a soft plume of light that drifted upward into the open sky. As it rose, the clearing brightened, not blindingly, but gently, like the first light of dawn embracing a world reborn. And with that light came a sense of peace he had never known before. Not the kind of peace that comes from answers, but the kind that comes from the courage to walk forward even without them. He turned back toward the forest expecting to see the long, winding path he had traveled, but instead, he found only open space. The trees had shifted, realigned, and woven themselves into new shapes. The road he had followed no longer existed. Because he no longer needed it. The forest had carried him where he needed to go. And now it was letting him leave on his own terms. He took a final breath of the warm, serene air, feeling its calm settle deep inside him. Then, with steady steps and a heart no longer weighed down by doubt, he walked forward into the new light, toward a world that was not easier, not safer, but finally understood. And the forest, ancient and alive, watched silently as he disappeared into the horizon, knowing his journey was complete. The story ends here.